Very good morning, all dear participants. I, Dr. Payal Bansal, welcome you all and our today's speaker, Dr. Manisha Bharti ma'am from NIT Delhi. Welcome you all on the behalf of Karima College of Engineering on this second short-term training program entitled Artificial Intelligence and 5G Communication Technology. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome our today's speaker, Dr. Manisha Bharti from NIT Delhi. Dr. Manisha Bharti has completed her BTech in Electronics and Communication Engineering from Guru Nanak Dev University in the year of 2002, MTech in the year of 2007 from Punjab Technical University, Jalandhar. She received her doctorate in the year of 2017 from IKG Punjab Technical University, Jalandhar, in the field of optical communication and networks. Her area of research include optical communication and networks, analog digital and wireless communication circuits, optical signal processing and VLSI also. Dr. Bharti has over 16 years of experience in academics. She worked as assistant professor for 7 plus years at NSUT East Campus, Delhi, under government of NCT of Delhi, and currently she is working as assistant professor in National Institute of Technology NIT Delhi. At present, she is guiding 3 research scholars for their PhD degree, and she is also guided many MTech and BTech students for their projects dissertation in different areas related to electronics and communication. She has published more than 30 research papers in journals, conferences, and international and national proceedings. She has published many book chapters also with good publication house like Wiley, Taylor and Francis, etc. Recently, she filed a patent in May 2020 on the topic of design of battery operated ventilator system under Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. It's a pleasure to have you as a speaker with us. I welcome you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Payal Bansal, for such beautiful introduction. And I also want to thank Dr. Garima for providing me this opportunity. And I welcome all the participants as well. So, starting with today's talk, give me 2 minutes for the presentation to start. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll be starting with the talk. The title of the talk, today's talk is 5G Communications, a survey on emerging technologies and future aspects. So here it is the overview of the presentation. First of all, we'll talk about the introduction, evolution of wireless technologies, what is the need of FG, then the technical comparison of IEEE standards, which are set for 5G, 5G network architecture, challenges for implementation of 5G in India and throughout world, then emerging technologies for 5G, future aspects, and the research areas, emerging research areas for 5G. Then we'll discuss some of the applications of 5G, conclusion, and the references. So starting with the introduction of the wireless technology, in networking terminology, wireless, it's a term that is used to describe any computer network where there is no physical connection between the sender and the receiver, but rather the network, it is connected by radio waves and or microwaves to maintain the communications. So wireless networking, it utilizes specific equipment such as the network interface cards, NICs, and routers in place of wires. So since its initiation in the late 1970s, mobile wireless communication has come across from analog voice calls to recent modern technologies, including the digital signals, providing high quality mobile broadband services and end user data rates for several megabits per second over wide areas and even hundreds of megabits per second locally. So the extensive improvement in terms of potentiality of this mobile communication networks, along with the initiation of new types of mobile devices, such as smartphones and tablets, they have produced an exponential growth in the network traffic. So today and in the recent future, to fulfill the demands presumptions and the challenges, the wireless based networks, they have to advance in various ways. So new emerging technologies need to be explored for the proper implementation of 5G network. Specimen of these new technology components, they are different ways of assessing the spectrum. We have to look for considerably higher frequency ranges, the investigation of the massive antenna configurations, direct device to device communication, and ultra dense deployments, etc. So these are some of the few examples for the new technology components that will help in combating with the challenges which is given by 5G. So coming to the evolution of wireless technology, G. Marconi and unlocks the path of wireless communication after he transmitted 3-dot Morse code using wireless communication with the help of the electromagnetic wave. So, sorry, is there any problem?
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay, fine. Maybe some has unmuted, so that is why. It's okay, ma'am. It's okay. So the evolution of wireless technologies are in terms of data rate, the technology, mobility, coverage, and spectral efficiency. We already know that 1G and 2G technologies, they are circuit switching. They are based upon circuit switching technique. While 2.5G and 3G, they uses both circuit and packet switching. And the next generations from 3.5G to now, that is 5G, they are using packet switching. So along with these factors, it also differentiate between the licensed and the unlicensed spectrum. So we'll be going through this licensed and unlicensed spectrum in the coming slides. So all the evolving generations, they are basically divided between the two. So this is the basically a figure which is showing the mobility or the coverage with respect to the data rate. So here all the generations of the wireless evolving communication technologies, they are mentioned from 1G to 4G. And here we have written that licensed spectrum and unlicensed spectrum. So we can see from this slide that the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi technology, they are the good examples for the unlicensed spectrum. So just a quick glance at the various generations so far for the wireless communication technologies. So in the 1G, the access technology was advanced mobile phone services, AMPS, and frequency division multiple access, that is FDMA. Data rate for 1G generation, it was 2.4 kbps, and it is used specifically for the voice data. But there was one drawback for 1G, the first generation. The drawbacks were the poor voice quality, poor battery life, large phone size, no security at all, and very limited capacity. These were the drawbacks for the first generation. Coming to the second generation, the technology which is used for 2G, second generation, was the GSM, that is Global System for Mobile Communication, and TDMA. The data rate which is provided by the second generation was 10 kbps, and it is used specifically for the voice and data applications. And 2G technology, then we came to 2.5G, and the access technology for 2.5G was the Global Packet Radio Services, GPRS, and Edge technology, that is enhanced data rate for GSM evolution. So the data rate which are given by GPRS and Edge technologies, they were 50 kbps and 200 kbps respectively. And the application area was remained the same, that is voice and data. But the 2G technology also, it comes with some of the drawbacks, that it was unable to handle the complex data such as videos. So we came to the third generation. In the third generation, the access technology was the wideband code division multiple access, WCDMA, Universal Mobile Telecommunication System, that is UMTS, and CDMA 2000. And the data rate which was there in the third generation was 384 kbps, and applications involves the voice, data, and video calling as well. And then we moved to 3.5G, that is in the third generation itself. So high-speed uplink and downlink packet access technologies were used in 3.5G. along with evolution data optimized, that is EVDO. Then the data rate was 5 to 30 megabits per second, and the application was same with more clarity. It was also used for voice, data, and video calling. Now coming to 3.75G, the access technology which was used for 3.75G was the long-term evolution, that is LTE. It's a very renowned technology used today itself, and the worldwide interoperability for microwave access, that is WiMAX. And the data rate reported by using this technology was 100 to 200 megabits per second. And the application area was online gaming and HD TV. Now, with this 3G also, we are having some of the drawbacks, and these drawbacks, they were the technology to achieve that, it was having complex infrastructure, expensive, high bandwidth requirement for implementation of the system, and large cell phones. So these are some of the drawbacks for the third generation. Now coming to the fourth generation, the access technology is long-term evolution advanced. And the data rate, they were given as from 3 downlink 3 gigabits per second, and for uplink it's about 1.5 gigabits per second approximately. And the application involved the online gaming and the HD TV. So before coming to the 5G, because right now in India, because 5G, it is not implemented fully yet. So we are moving across the 3.5G and 4G technology only, right? So before coming to the introduction of 5G, there were some of the drawbacks, basically not drawbacks, but as we move on, as we grow on, the demands for more and more facility, it goes on increasing. So in case of 4G, the battery uses is more, right? So battery life, it is very less, as with lot many things on the mobile phone itself. Definitely the users, it is using the mobile phone like anything, right? So it's a small mini computer kind of a thing in the hand of the user. So battery life, it's a very big challenge. It is hard to implement, and expensive equipments required for the implementation of the network. So we moved to the fifth generation to enhance the speed, to higher down the data rates. So for 5G, the access technology is used as the BDMA, that is beam division multiple access. And data rate, it is expected to achieve the data rate from 10 to 50 gigabits per second. And the applications, they are ultra high definition TV and virtual reality applications. So this is the application area for the 5G technology. Now, coming to the need of 5G, as I already explained, basically the increased demand for capacity has inspired the researchers to move from generation to generation. To cover the drawbacks of the first generation, we moved to 2G. Then again, we are having some of the drawbacks, and to enhance it further, the performance matrices, to enhance it further, we went to the next technologies. So the main requirement for having 5G technology is the increased demand for capacity, clarity in the audio, video, visuals, then improved data rate, decreased latency, because due to the shortage of time, we want everything on the phone on the spot, right? Nobody wants to wait for anything. So that is the most basic requirement, that decreased latency should be there. Processing time of the data, it should be at least thing which is required by the user, right? So interactive multimedia, better quality of services, large phone memory, security of data. This is the main need when we are talking about the wireless communication. Then the dialing speed, and definitely the cost. So this is the need for 5G technology. Now, within exponential growth in the demand of the users, as already we have discussed, 4G will now be easily replaced with 5G with an advanced access technologies. And the advanced access technologies that we use with 5G are BDMA, that is beam division multiple access, and non-quasi orthogonal or filter bank multiple carrier, that is FBMC multiple access. Now, for the BDMA technique, the concept behind the BDMA technique, it is basically explained by considering the case of a base station communicating with the mobile stations. In this communication, an orthogonal beam, it is allocated to each mobile station, and this technique will divide that antenna beam according to the locations of the mobile station for giving multiple accesses to the mobile station, which correspondingly increase the capacity of the system. So beam division multiple access scheme, it has been proposed to increase the wireless system capacity and handle a large number of users. We can just have a look on the diagram, which is explaining the BDMA technique. Here we are having an antenna, and these are the mobile stations, and different mobile stations, they are being given the different beams which are set by the antenna. So in this technology, the base station allocates separate antenna beams to each mobile phone or mobile station. This could be done after definitely evaluating the position of the mobile station as well as their moving speeds, then deciding the width and the direction of the beams for the mobile stations with respect to the base stations. All the mobile stations, they communicate with the base station when these are in its line of sight. And all the beams are distinct for each individual station. So simultaneous data transmission is possible to different mobile stations at different angles. So this is a BDMA technique which is specifically focusing on increasing the wireless communication system capacity, and this is used to handle a large number of users at the same time. Now the second technique which is used specifically for the 5G technology, it is FBMC, that is the filter bank multi-carrier technology. So FBMC, it is basically a development of the OFDM technology. So it is a main aim of this FBMC technology, it is to cover the drawbacks of the OFDM technology. Right, in OFDM, basically the main shortcoming was that we were using the CP, that is cyclic prefix. And what is this cyclic prefix? Cyclic prefix, it is essentially a copy of the part of a transmitted symbol in OFDM that is appended at the beginning of the next signal. So as for each and every signal, we have to attach this cyclic prefix in the beginning. So it comes out to be a redundancy when we are sending a data, right? So this was basically the wastage of the bandwidth as well as the wastage of the power, right? It also affects the throughput of the system. So to avoid this cyclic prefix and the disadvantage of the OFDM systems, we went for this FBMC. So FBMC, it is able to provide a spectrum, efficient and more selective system. What we do basically in this, we use a bank of filters over here, as it is clear from the diagram. When we are giving the input, we are having so many filter banks in between, and using these bank of filters, typically we use digital signal processing techniques to have a signal at the output channel. Right, so the main advantages of this FB technique is to provide a sufficient spectrum and more selective system, and definitely to cover the disadvantages of the OFDM technique. So when we use this FBMC technique, although it is an extension to the OFDM, the technology which we used for 4G, but it comes at the cost of increasing signal processing rate. So signal processing, it is again a problem with this. Now IEEE, I say it provides a global, open and collaborative platform for wireless communities that engage in and enable the development of definitely new, innovative and relevant use cases and standards, which in turn they accelerate the time to market of consensus developed technologies with regard to the 5th generation wireless systems. Specific areas of the focus, they include the mobile broadband network evolution, technology interoperability, enabling IoT and small cities, including public safety and connected vehicles. So recently introduced this IEEE 802.11 AC, 802.11 AD, and 802.11 AF standards are very helpful, and they act as a building block in the road towards the 5G. So the technical comparison between these standards, it is shown in the table next. So this slide, it is basically showing the technical comparison of different IEEE standards which are used specifically for the 5G on the basis of some of the important parameters, right? So these parameters, they are frequency, modulation scheme, channel bandwidth, range, spectral efficiency, effective isotropic radiated power through walls, and non-line of sight, right? So these are the sorry. So these are the some of the parameters on which these standards, they are being differentiated, right? So if we are taking the spectral efficiency as one of the parameter, or if we, for designing the system, if we want the EIRP to be the highest, so from this table we just have a quick overview of all the parameters that a particular IEEE standard is possessing, right? Now the network architecture. Network architecture, it's a general observation of the researchers that most of the wireless users, they stay inside for approximately 80% of time and outside for approximately 20% of time. So in present wireless cellular architecture, for a mobile user to communicate whether inside or outside, an outside based station which is present in the middle of a cell, it helps in the communication. So for inside users to communicate with the outside base stations, the signal will have to travel through the walls of the indoors, and this will result in a very high penetration loss, which correspondingly caused with reduced spectral efficiency, data rate, and energy efficiency of the wireless communication systems. To overcome these challenges, a new idea or designing technique that has come into existence for 5G cellular architecture is to distinct the outside and the inside setups. So while with this designing technique, the penetration loss through the walls of the building, it will be slightly reduced. So this is the architecture which is being proposed for the application for the 5G communication system. So on the left side, you may see the basic OSI model that consists of 7 layers, from physical layer to application layer. And on the right hand side, we can just have a look for the 5G, where the physical layer and the data link layer, it is combined, and this is given as open wireless architecture, that is OWA. Then the network layer, it is divided into two, that is upper network layer and lower network layer. Session layer and transport layer, it is again combined to give open transport protocol, that is OTP. And then finally the presentation layer and the application layer, they are combined to give the application or the service. Now we'll be defining basically this 5G. In the 5G model, we are talking about the 5 layers basically. Now the first one is the open wireless architecture, that is OWA. So this OSI layer 1 and OSI layer 2, it define the wireless technology. For these two layers, the 5G mobile network is likely to be based on open wireless architecture. So physical layer plus data link layer, it is equal to the open wireless architecture. Now the network layer, this is the second layer. All mobile networks, they will use mobile IP address. Each mobile terminal, it will be a foreign agent. A mobile can be attached to several mobiles or wireless network at the same time. The fixed IPv6 will be implemented in the mobile phone. So this layer, it works in the two sublayers. One is the lower network layer for each interface, and then the upper network layer, this is for the mobile terminal only. The third one is the open transport protocol, that is OTP. Now, the wireless network, it differs from the wired network regarding this transport layer basically. So here the main difference lies between the wired and the wireless network. In all TCP versions, the assumption is that the lost segments, they are due to network congestion. But in wireless, we see that loss is due to higher bit error ratio in the radio interface. So 5G mobile terminals, they have transport layer that is possible to be downloaded and it is possible to install it. So this is Open Transfer Protocol, that is OTP. So transport layer plus session layer in the OSI model, it is equal to the OTP in case of 5G. Now, coming to the last layer, that is the application or the service layer. It provides intelligent quality of service management over variety of networks. It provides possibility for service quality testing and storage of measurement information in database in the mobile terminal. Select the best wireless connection for given services and QoS parameters. Many parameters we discuss for the quality of service, and these parameters are delay, the losses in the channel itself, bandwidth, reliability. It will be stored in the database of 5G mobile. So the presentation layer and the application layer, it combines from the OSI model and give you the application or the service layer for 5G. So coming to the challenges for 5G, various challenges for the implementation of the 5G are the need for the high capacity and to urge high data rate, decreased end-to-end latency, as we have discussed earlier also, massive number of connections, reduced cost, and the quality of experience. Now, to combat with all these challenges, many emerging technologies, they are used for 5G. So these this slide, it will give you just idea about the emerging technologies for the 5G, like network function virtualization, software defined networking, massive MIMO, ultra densification, device to device communication, green communications, and then radio access techniques. So these are the emerging technologies for 5G, and we'll be discussing these technologies one by one. As it is expected that mobile and wireless traffic volume will increase 1,000-folds over the next decades. So with a rapid increase in the number of connected devices, many challenges, like we have already discussed, appear. So which will be responded by increasing the capacity of the system and by improving the energy efficiency, cost, and definitely the most important one is the spectrum utilization and providing better scalability for handling the increasing number of connected devices. So to provide a common connected platform for a variety of applications and requirements for 5G, we'll consider the following technology components. So we are having radio links to discuss, the multi-node and multi-antenna transmissions, network dimensions, spectrum usage. So there are also some of the titles that will integrate a subset of the technology components and provides the solution for some of the challenges or the goals which we have already identified in 5G wireless communication technology. And these are device to device communications, massive machine communications, interference management, ultra dense networks, full duplex radios, and millimeter wave solution. So in the following slides, we'll be discussing them one by one. We'll be starting with the very important and the very feasible emerging technology, and that is basically related to the best utilization of the spectrum, because the bandwidth and spectrum, it is always a biggest constraint when we talk about any type of a communication. Right, so for wireless communication, also for 5G, so spectrum, due to the shortage of the spectrum and the frequency bands, so we are discussing it on the first number. So starting with the radio frequencies for a 5G, the air interface, which is defined by 3GPP for 5G, it is known as new radio, that is NR. And the specification is subdivided into two frequency bands basically. So the first band is called as the frequency range 1, which is defined below 6 gigahertz. And the second part, it is a band, it is called as frequency range 2, and it is given in millimeter wave. So each of them, if we talk about the frequency range 1 or frequency range 2, each are having the different capabilities, and we can just discuss them one by one. So first of all, we'll discuss about the frequency range 1. So this frequency range 1, it is a range which is less than 6 gigahertz. Due to the scarcity of the continuous spectrum in the crowded frequency range, because less than 6 gigahertz, it's a very high crowded frequency range. So definitely there is a scarcity of the continuous spectrum over here. That is why the channel bandwidth, which is given for 5G and defined for frequency range 1, is only 100 megahertz. And the most widely used band for 5G in this range is 3.3 to 4.2 gigahertz. The Korean carriers, they are using N78 band at 3.5 gigahertz, although some of the millimeter wave spectrum, they are also being allocated to these carriers. So coming to the frequency range 2, that is the second frequency band, and this band, it lies for the frequency which is greater than 24 gigahertz. So the minimum channel bandwidth which is defined for this frequency range is 50 hertz, and the maximum channel bandwidth is 400 megahertz. So with the two channels aggregation supported in 3GPP release 15. So in the US, Verizon is using an 258 band at 28 gigahertz, and AT&T, it is using 39 gigahertz. So higher is the frequency of from the spectrum the signal is using, the greater is its ability to support high data transfer speeds, right? So frequency range 2, it is very much beneficial for the implementation of 5G. No doubt there is also some drawbacks that we'll be discussing in the coming slides. So this FR2, that is frequency range 2 coverage is there. So as we know that 5G in the 24 gigahertz range or above, they use higher frequencies in comparison to 4G, right? As a result, because the frequency levels, they are very high, so they are not capable of traveling the large distances. Over a few hundred meters only, we can just use this frequency range. And unlike 4G or lower frequency FG signals, that is the subcarrier frequency, which is given by 6 gigahertz. So this is the main disadvantage of this coverage, that although we are having a spectrum in this FR2 range, but the distance which is traveled in this frequency range, it is very less, right? So this requires placing 5G base stations at very few hundred meters. Means the distance between the two base stations, it should be very less in order to use these higher frequency bands. Also, these higher frequency 5G signals, they cannot penetrate solid objects easily, such as cars, trees, and walls. So because of the nature of these higher frequency electromagnetic waves. So the cells can be deliberately designed to be inconspicuous as possible. So that is why we say that 5G technology, it's a heterogeneous kind of a network which consists of many small cells, macro cells, so that the small stations, they can be made at a very small distance from each other to cover the large area. The second technology that we'll be discussing is the massive MIMO. So massive MIMO, it's an evolving technology that has been upgraded from the current MIMO. So initially the name was MIMO only, that is multiple input and the multiple output. Now instead of that, we use this massive MIMO, that is the multiple input and multiple output system. It increases the sector throughput and the capacity density by using large number of antennas and multi-user MIMO, that is MU MIMO. So in this case, the massive MIMO system, It uses the arrays of antennas that we can see from here. We are having a base station in the center. So in the from the base station in the center, from the figure we can see that there are a lot there. It uses a arrays of antennas containing few hundred antennas which are at the same time in one time frequency slot, serving many tens of the user terminal. Right, so this massive MIMO, it depends upon the spatial multiplexing. So spatial multiplexing scheme, what is that basically? Spatial multiplexing scheme, it transmits different signals from each transmission antenna so that the data rate it is increased without any change in the frequency band or in the transmission power. So it's a very large antenna array of each base station. A large number of users are served simultaneously with the help of this massive MIMO. Right. So these are the positives of the massive MIMO systems. So massive MIMO, it has the capability to improve the radiated energy efficiency by 100 times, and at the same time it increases the capacity of the order of 10 or more, because each antenna in this case it is transmitting different signals from each transmission antenna to the base station. So the massive MIMO systems, they can be put together with the help of low power and less costly components. It permits a substantial decrease in latency on the air interface because it's basically a one-to-one communication. Then it makes the multiple access layer very simple. It increases the strength equally against unintended man-made interference and intended jamming. So these are the positives of the massive MIMO system. Now the next emerging technology for the 5G network, it is the edge computing. So edge computing, it is a very commonly used technique which is basically related to cloud computing as well. So these are two technologies separately we are using to give some advantage for the system, for the implementation of the 5G technology. So this edge computing is as with the usage of more IoT devices at the edge of the network nowadays, it is producing massive amount of data to be computed at data centers. That results in the requirement of high network bandwidth. So despite of many improvements which is done at the network level, data centers, they cannot guarantee the acceptable transfer rates and the response times. And that can be a critical requirement for many of the cases, right? So we go for this edge computing. Edge computing, it's a distributed computing paradigm that brings computation and data storage closer to the location where it is needed, right? So this will improve the response times and it also can save the bandwidth. So edge computing, in short, we can say that it's a concept to move the computation away from the data center towards the edge of the network where the users they are using it. It is very close to the ultimate users, right? To save the time, to increase the to decrease the latency of the system, we use this edge computing system, as well as to increase the security also. Now this edge computing technique, it is being used, right? So we can see from the diagram over here. So it's a cloud wherein the information it is sent and it is stored, but in between we are having edge nodes which are written over here. Then at the bottom we are having the users, the ultimate users, which are denoted here by the edge devices. So this edge computing, it's a distributed computing concept that integrates the intelligence to edge devices, also called as edge nodes, right? Allowing data to be processed and analyzed in real time near the data collection sources. So in the edge computing, there is no need to upload the data directly to the cloud. or to a centralized data processing system. So this is a major advantage for the data for the edge computing technique. So coming next to the positives of edge computing. So it provides many advantages for using the edge computing. The first one is privacy and security. So privacy and security, it is due to the fact that edge computing, it is having a distributed nature. So it provides the data, it can be encrypted in case of this edge computing paradigm. Not even we can only encrypt the data, but we can use different encryption mechanisms also. We can adopt, since data, it may transmit between different distributed nodes which is connected through the internet before eventually reaching the cloud. So because we are having many stages which are the edge nodes which are available in between, so we can adopt different encryption algorithms also, right? So definitely the privacy and security, it will be more in edge computing, right? Then scalability. Scalability, it's another factor. It's in a distributed network, it is there, but for maintain the scalability of the system, it must face different issues, because the security requirements introduce further latency in the system. Because as we go on increasing the security of the information through the edge nodes, so there will be more processing time for the information, which will result in the increase in the latency, right, which may slow down the scaling process. So definitely there is always a trade-off between providing the security to the system and to the scalability of the system. Then reliability. Reliability, it is again high when we talk about edge computing. The management of failovers in order to maintain the service alive. So in this case, if a single node goes down and it is unreachable, users, they are able to access a service without interruption. So the data, it can be transferred, information can be transferred to the user immediately. So this edge computing system, they provide actions to recover from a failure and alerting the user about the incident. So the device maintain the network and the entire distributed system for the reliability. Now coming to the speed, edge computing, it brings analytical computational resources close to the end users, right? Because in the edge computing, the main idea is that directly connect, instead of directly connected to the cloud, we are having the nodes in between. So as the analytical computational resources, they are close to the end users, therefore it helps to speed up the communication processing, right? So a well-designed edge platform, it would significantly outperform a traditional cloud-based system, right? So even if the system, it is designed carefully, right, by considering all the factors, even a well-designed edge computing system, it is more preferable in comparison to the cloud-based system. And examples for this is, we can also take an example of a human perception, such as the facial recognition. So that typically takes a human between 370 to 620 milliseconds to perform, right? So edge computing, it is provides more speed in processing the data. Now coming to the efficiency of the system, now as due to the proximity of the analytic resources to the end users, sophisticated analytical tools and artificial intelligence tools can run on the edge of the system, right? So this placement at the edge, it helps to increase the operational efficiency, and it contributes many of the advantages of the system, and hence the efficiency of the edge computing system, it is very high. Now coming to the next technology, as we are talking about, this is the small cells. So small cells, as I already we have discussed, that in the 5G cellular architecture, it is basically the heterogeneous. So if we are talking about a heterogeneous architecture, so it must include the macro cells, micro cells, small cells, and relays. A mobile small cell concept, it is an integral part of a 5G wireless cellular network. It is being introduced basically for the mobile users, which are inside the automobiles, you can say, and in the high speed trains. So mobile small cells, they are positioned inside the moving automobiles to communicate with the users inside the automobile. While the massive MIMO technology unit, it consists of large antenna arrays. It is placed outside the automobile to communicate with the outside base station. So according to users' opinion, we can say that mobile small cell, it is realized as a regular base station, and its allied users, they all are all observed as a single unit to the base station, which proves the above idea of splitting the indoor and outdoor setups. Because for indoor setups, we are having that small mobile small cells which are placed inside the automobile, and for outdoors we are making use of the massive MIMO antenna arrays which are providing the outdoor connection with the base station. So mobile small cells users, they have high data rate for data rate services with considerably reduced signaling overhead. Now, these are the low-powered cellular radio access nodes that operate in licensed and unlicensed spectrum. So we just had a talk for the licensed and unlicensed spectrum earlier also when we were talking about the IEEE standards, right? So this is having a range of 10 meters to a few kilometers. Small cells, they are very much critical to 5G networks, as 5G radio waves, they cannot travel long distances because of 5G's higher frequencies. So small cells, it's a critical part, it's a crucial part when we talk about the 5G networks. So, but there are several issues that need to be addressed in order to realize the wireless network architecture in particular and 5G network in general. Some of the issues for the licensed spectrum and unlicensed spectrum with respect to operator point of view and with respect to the user point of view, they are just briefly given in this slide point wise. So when we are talking about the licensed spectrum, so it is having some of the advantages from the operator point of view as well as from the user point of view, and definitely it is having some negative points also and for concerns also. This is same as in the labs that we are taking for the students. If we are having a licensed spectrum, licensed version of any software, so we can just equate it with that. So what are the positive if we are having supposedly any software which we are utilizing for our students in our college? So the same advantages and disadvantages we can have here for licensed and unlicensed spectrum if we talk about with respect to the operator and with respect to the user point of view, right? So licensed means when officially we have taken the license for the user or using of the same software from the company itself. So the positives are, for operator point of view, operator controlled cell sites are there, easier to provide the quality of experience, realization of advanced resource allocations. You must have noticed that when we are having the licensed spectrum, it becomes automatically, the enhanced versions, they come into existence, right? And when we are not having the licensed versions, so resource allocation, the advanced resource allocation is not there, right? So the positives for the user setup for licensed spectrum is reduced cost that is based upon equipment, setup and operation. And similarly, we are having the negatives also, that is limited spectrum license fees. This is the most important concern from the operator point of view, that operator has to give a license fee for the same. And with respect to the user, the negatives are that later service customer sustenance, added operational cost is required, right? So then the concern for both of them, they are the backhaul provisioning and public or private access control, ensuring quality of experience, etc. And similarly, for the unlicensed spectrum, we can see what is the positive for the operator. Operator controlled cell sites. Operators, they have extra spectrum for exploitation. So we can have the extra spectrum, and for the positives, we can say that for the user point of view, the reduced cost, it is the main positive. And similarly, we can have the negative and the different concerns for these spectrums. Now coming to the next emerging technology, and next technology, it is beamforming. So beamforming is what, as the name suggests, beamforming, it is used to direct the radio waves to a target. Right. Initially, in you can just see from the figure itself, in the 4G, we are having these antennas, right? And antennas, they are transmitting the signals. And in the 5G, we are having the, we are basically direct radio waves we are using to the target, till the target, right? So basically we are doing the shaping of the radio wave to a point in a specific direction. We are sending the signal in a specific direction, right? So this technique, it combines the power from elements of the antenna arrays in such a way that signals at particular angle, they experience constructive interference, while the other signals pointing to the other angles, they experience destructive interference. So this beamforming, that is when we are directing the radio waves to a target, right, in a specific direction. So this improves the signal quality in the specific direction, as well as data transfer speeds, right? So 5G, it uses this beamforming technique specifically to improve the quality of a signal, and it provides beamforming, and it provides the beamforming, and it can be done by the phased array antenna. So generally, the type of antennas which is used to provide these radio waves in a specific direction, they are the phased array antennas. Now coming to the next emerging technology, which is NOMA. NOMA, it stands for the non-orthogonal multiple access. It's a proposed multiple access technique for the further cellular systems via the allocation of power. So this is what, in case of NOMA, orthogonal multiple access division, multiple access, it was used in the 4G systems, where information for each user, it is assigned to a subset of carriers. So you can see from here, from the diagram itself, it is clear that this is the user 1 and this is the user 2. Here, information for each user, it is assigned to a subset of carriers. But in NOMA, on the other hand, all the subcarriers, they can be used by each user, right? So it's a technique where we are just giving the allocations from the subcarrier system to all the users via power. So here there is no concept of a frequency division and for time division at any point. Rather, the system, it is divided on the basis of power only, right? So NOMA, it is fundamentally different from all these multiple access techniques that provide each user operate in some same band at the same time, right? Code or space, right? NOMA, it uses superposition coding at the transmitter such that the successive interference cancellation receiver can separate the users both in uplink and in downlink channels. So in the next slide, we can just have a difference between the NOMA and OFDM. So from the diagram, it is clear that in case of OFDM, that is frequency division multiple access, each subcarrier, each user, it is assigned a subset of carriers like UE1 and UE2. They are just divided equally between the two. And when we are talking about NOMA, here the power wise, the carriers, they are assigned to each user. So it is proposed as a candidate, and definitely the practical implementation of NOMA in cellular networks, it requires high computational power to implement real-time power allocation and the cancellation of the interference. Now coming to the next technology, that is SDN and NFV. So this SDN, it stands for the software defined networking, and NFV, it stands for the network function virtualization. So initially, the cellular mobile communication technologies were defined in the context of providing voice services and internet access. Today, a new era of innovative tools and technologies, it is inclined towards developing a new pool of applications, right? So this pool of applications, basically, it consists of different domains, such as the Internet of Things, web of connected autonomous vehicles, remotely controlled robots, and heterogeneous sensors, which are connected to serve versatile applications. So the SDN, it is designed to make a network more flexible and agile. So SDN, it is used to design and to build and manage networks, separating the control and the forward plans. Means everything, it is controlled with the help of the softwares only. And this NFV, that is the network function virtualization, this is basically the ability to provide the network functions on industry standard platforms, right? So this is when we are providing all the functions which are based upon networking through the standard platforms. Now, coming to the interference management is that definitely for the efficient utilization of the limited resources, what we need to do, we need to have, we reuse the frequency spectrum. So this is used over here also for the improvement of the traffic capacity and user throughput densifications. So definitely for the efficient load sharing between the macro cells and the local SS networks, we need to use the concept of reuse. But they are having some problems that the density and the load of the network, they have increased considerably. And correspondingly, receiver terminals in the network, they suffer from this co-channel interference, because as we know that 5G, as already discussed, that it's a 5G is a technology, it's a heterogeneous architecture which consists of very small cells, micro cells and macro cells. So due to the increased demand and due to the increased traffic over there, so what we do, basically, we just go on increasing the capacity of the system by using the reuse concept. So it will result in the interference of the system. So then there is definitely a need for the efficient interference management systems. It is very, very much required. So generally, two interference management techniques, they are used. One is the advanced receivers, and second is the joint scheduling. Now, advanced receivers means that it is basically device based. When we talk about advanced receiver, it is basically a device base, where at the receiver will help, it will detect and even try to decode the symbols of the interference signal within the modulation constellation, coding scheme, channel and resources allocation, right? And when we talk about joint scheduling, for calibrating the development, some typical coordinated multi-point schemes like to coordinate scheduling, coordinate beam forming, dynamic point selection, and joint transmission, they were normally conferred. So joint scheduling, it is broadly used to refer advanced interface management of the cellular systems and the link variation from the network side. So this interference management, it's a crucial step when we talk about the 5G communication. Then the device-to-device communication. Device-to-device communication can be explained by visualizing a two-level 5G cellular network and named them as macro cell level and device level. The macro cell level, it comprises of the base station to device communication as an orthodox cellular system. The device level comprises of device to device communication. So if a device, like here it is shown, if a device, it links the cellular network through a base station, then it will be operating in the macro cell level. And if a device links directly to another device or apprehends in its transmission through the support of other devices, then it will be on the device level. So we are having different levels for the same. The four main types of device level communications, they are device relaying with base station controlled link formation, direct device to device communication with base station controlled link formation, device relaying with device controlled link formation, and direct device to device communication with the device controlled link formation. So these are the different types for the device to device communication. Now, coming next to the ultra dense networks. Ultra dense networks are again to meet the increasing traffic demands due to increased number of users in case of 5G, and densification of the infrastructure is done for the 5G communication. Now, for designing ultra dense networks, we again need the heterogeneous network. It will play an important role. We'll divide the network into small macro cells, small cells. But again, if we are making the heterogeneous networks, if we are making the network to be ultra dense, it gives rise to new challenges in terms of interference and mobility. So to overcome these challenges, there arise a requirement of designing new network layer functionalities for maximizing the performance further from the design of the existing physical layer, right? So in present networks like in 4G, so there exists some interference mitigation techniques like enhanced intercell interference coordination and component carrier selection, right? But these are applicable only for nomadic and for dense small cell deployments, and they have limited flexibility. For 5G networks, the interference mitigation techniques, it should be more flexible and it should be open to the variations as changes in the traffic and deployment are expected to occur more rapidly than in the existing networks. So in future, these small devices and small cell networks will be capable of providing the best wireless connectivity with minimum interference and less power consumption. Along with this, they should be rapidly adaptable to the changing requirements of the device's radio access networks. Now the millimeter wave solutions. Now millimeter wave solution is what? That some researchers, they have put forward that millimeter wave frequencies of 2.6 gigahertz radio spectrum possibly will supplement the presently saturated 700 megahertz band for wireless communication. So feasibility of this millimeter wave wireless communication is supported by the fact that the use of high gain steerable antennas at the mobile and base station and cost effective CMOS technology can now operate well into the millimeter wave frequency bands. So using these frequencies, large bandwidth allocations will come up with higher data transfer rates with the increase in bandwidth capacity will also get increased while the latency will get decreased. So which will give rise to the better internet based access and applications like real-time streaming, right? So now the wavelength of the millimeter wave, as we know, they are frequencies, they are small. So it will utilize polarization and different spatial processing techniques like massive MIMO and adaptive beamforming. So with the significant increase in the bandwidth, the data links to densely populated areas will now handle greater capacity in comparison to the present 4G networks. So the spectrum distributions of over 1 gigahertz of bandwidth are currently being utilized in 28 gigahertz and 38 gigahertz band. And definitely there are some problems also, issues also regarding millimeter wave propagation, which need to consider are the path loss, blocking, atmospheric, and the rain absorption. So these are the main propagation issues that are there for using this range for the 5G wireless. Now coming to the full duplex radios. Full duplex radios, it's again, as for a long duration of communication period, it was actually the assumption which was made by all the researchers that the radios, they have to operate in only half duplex mode. That is, either they can transmit or receive at a time. So then researchers at Stanford University and with their other groups in industry and academia, They proposed various designs to build in the full duplex radios. So the realization to build full duplex radios, it has a lot of implications. The cellular networks will have to reduce their spectrum demands to half, as only a single channel is used for achieving the same performance. So as in LTE, both uplink and downlink, it uses equal width separate channels for empowering the radios to realize full duplex. So here we can see that for communication in the full duplex mode, the self interference results from its own transmission to the received signal. It has to be completely removed. So we can see from the diagram over here, this is the transmitter section, this is the receiver section. So this is the transmitted bit, this is digital to analog converter. Then here it is the multiplier. Then we are having a power amplifier. So when this goes to the circulator, we are having separate algorithms for the cancellation of the self interference over here. So then the output, it is passed through the low noise amplifiers, and then finally analog to digital conversion of the signal, it is there to find out the signal at the receiver end. So it will act as if any residual self interference is not completely cancelled, then it will act as a noise to the received signal, which in turn reduces SNR and subsequently the throughput of the system. So it need to be cancelled. Then is the green communication. Green communication is the growing technology in wireless 5G to make an energy efficient system without disturbing other performance matrices like capacity, throughput, etc. And the main purpose of green communication is to protect the environment from harmful EM radiations and reducing the operational cost for the wireless network. You must have all of you must have gone through one conspiracy also during this COVID-19 pandemic that was occurred regarding the arson attacks. Maybe most of you, they have heard about the arsons attacks. What was that actually? That during this pandemic, several conspiracy theories, they were circulating online, posted a link between the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, that is SARS-CoV-2 and 5G. Actually, they have just related this arson attack with this 5G technology. That is, it is such a health hazardous to use this 5G concept that it can affect the health of the human beings. So it came as then very conspiracy was there, and a lot of noise was there in the media itself for the same. And many other countries like Netherlands, like in Italy also, many other countries like Croatia, Sweden, so they also reported the same thing, that there the persons, they are having the urgent attack against the telephone masts. So in the Netherlands also 61 suspected out of it, but later on this was basically went out like anything, like the other news and the other conspiracies in the media itself. So it is not decided yet that whether it is actually there or not, but it's a very like emerging area of research that we can go for, that how much this 5G communication implementation of this, it is really that much hazardous to health or not. So coming to the next technology, it's a visible light communication. It's a growing technology that utilizes the visible light source as the signal transmitter, the air as the transmission medium, and the appropriate photodiode as a signal receiving component. So it is comprised of visually perceivable electromagnetic waves, and the spectrum for wavelength, it varies from 380 nanometer to 750 nanometer for the visible light communications. So coming to the next and the last half of the presentation is the future aspects, and these are the research areas also for 5G communication. As we have done, the emerging technologies are there, but all the technologies that we have discussed, they are having a lot of scope, because till now the 5G communication, it is not implemented yet. A few projects are there at India level, though many research projects are there in foreign countries like in US and in China. They are working a lot on it. So there is a lot scope of improvement for these emerging technologies. So these in front of you are the topmost areas of research in 5G communication, like in massive MIMO, centimeter and millimeter wave, multiple radio access technologies, battery life, new air interface, ensuring end-to-end performance, contextual awareness, small cell approach, and at the last, security oriented. So I'll just go through from all the things that where the research is being going on. So first of all, if we'll talk about massive MIMO, initially we used MIMO for 2 by 2 or for 4 by 2 MIMO we have designed. But when we talk about MIMOs, Bell Lab, it has developed 64 antenna arrays, right? But there is still considerable work that needs to be done to make sure that arrays, they are cost effective and they can be deployable very easily in the work environment. So they would be more likely due to size and weight and to end up on the side of a building than on a cell tower. So it is an hot area of research to make more and more large number of arrays in a number of antennas in an array, right? Which can be cost effective also, size also should be small and weight also should be less. Then the centimeter and millimeter wave. So there is a substantial amount of spectrum at very high frequencies, but the challenges are very high. We can use it, it is very attractive, we can use it, but the challenges are high. So if there is not a line of sight link between the access points and user device, then the connection basically goes to zero. So now what the researchers and engineers they are doing, they are just have to figure out how to leverage that spectrum, how to use that spectrum of very high frequencies while providing the consistent high quality of experience. Adding that performance over distance will be important as well. So definitely the for over a meter or two of a distance from the base station will start to appear soon, such as VGig. So YGig, it is a technology which is using the centimeter and the millimeter wave, but it will be important to design the system that can utilize the high frequency spectrum at a distance of say 100 meters. Because this WGig, it's a technology which is using the high frequency spectrum, but it is only made for a 1 meter or 2 with respect to the distance level. So this distance, it is very small to cover by any wireless communication system. So it should be at least 100 meters. So research is going on in this field also. Then multiple radio access technologies, that 5G is likely to involve Wi-Fi, traditional cellular frequencies and high frequency spectrums. So ability of a device to talk to different types of access points at the same time, it is present in networks, right? So reliable connection will be maintained on a traditional cellular frequency with extra speed on millimeter wave. Then battery life, this is the most challenging part. As I already told you that new ways they are being explored to extend the battery life. It is extremely important, particularly for the Internet of Things ecosystem, where may need batteries that can last a decade or more and can be produced economically. So more efficient networking in the 5G, it could be a component of improving battery life, right? Which has been hit by the popularity of devices with large screens. So for marketing point of view also, this is very important that for the sale of a particular device, so this battery life, it's an important issue. The new air interface for applications such as car-to-car communication, tactile internet, and other potential use that requires sub 10 millisecond latency, a baseline change in technology, it is needed, right? So there are a lot of improvements which are going to be able to make to LTE, but there are some that are believed will require a more fundamental change to happen. So new air interface, they need to be explored. Then end-to-end performance. So end-to-end performance, it is basically that from the user level to the network level. So in the common denominator of future networks, they will all be untethered or wireless for at least the last few feet, right? So meanwhile, we'll have expectations of unlimited capacity and they will have expectations of infinite response, right? So there should be end-to-end performance. It should be high enough with respect to the delivery of the content, with respect to the core network. Then is the contextual awareness. Contextual awareness, it is basically this goes along with the end-to-end performance, and this is basically the ability for a network to understand what device a user is on, right? What application it is being used, the physical location and the speed, and adapting the network performance to best serve those parameters. So this contextual awareness, it is a very emerging field on which the research is going on, right? Just to have an idea what a necessity and what a device it is being used for. Then the small cell approach, as we have already seen, that researchers, they are focusing on small cells to meet the higher data capacity demands for the 5G networks. So small cells, as we know, they are the low powered radio access points, and they take the place of traditional wireless transmission systems or base stations. So the faster small cell technology advances, the sooner consumer will have specific 5G devices connected to 5G only internet, right? So this is again a challenge to make the small cells as small as possible to cover all the distance with a very high improved mobile communications for the subscribers. Then security, it is again a major area of focus when we are talking about 5G communication, because when voice and text were routed to the separate physical devices, each device managed its own network security, right? Like in 4G, we are having voice calls and we are having SMS also. So 5G, it moves away from this by making everything software based. So because in 5G everything will be software based, so definitely this makes things less secure, right? So as there are more now more ways to attack the network, so security, it is again a very big issue when we talk about the 5G systems. So we need to have this again, it's a conspiracy. Again, you must have heard about it that when traditionally when this 5G system came at the federal level under Obama administration, so they clearly defined security at the network stage past. But in the Trump administration, then again, it is looking to replace these security layers with its own network spectrum strategy. So this is again the thing that how much the network administrator, it is willing to provide the security at the network level or at the user level. So it depends. So it is again an area to be explored much. Then this was all about the research and the research areas in which the researchers, they can now follow their research for the same. Now coming to the applications of 5G, there are many applications, as you all know. The very first application for this is the e-health services. So as we know that the 5G, it allow telemedicine services to enhance their doctor patient relationship by decreasing troublesome lag times in calls. So e-health services, it's an important application for the 5G, especially in these days, like in this kind of a pandemic, from the situation that we all are facing, the whole world is facing this problem. So in this pandemic, it is spurring definitely the new developments in telemedicine as a delivery platform for the medical services and for the consent of the doctors as well. Then the energy infrastructure is there, that in addition to transforming e-health services, the speed and the reliability of 5G network connectivity, it can improve the infrastructure of the energy sector with smart power grids. So we can excuse me. So we can just see the smart cities and the grids over there. So then we are having farming. So another specific area to see the improvement of this 5G, it is farming by using artificial intelligence. So with this 5G, the farmers, they can make many things happen in the cattle farming. They can increase the cattle farming efficiency by using this. By placing the sensors on cows, the farmers, they can capture data, and with the help of artificial intelligence, they may know that when a cow is likely to give birth to a child. So if they are feeling sick or if they are not feeling well, so they are having a artificial intelligence algorithm to sense the same thing. So in this way, both the farmers and veterinarians, they can better predict, right, the time and the preparation for the cow's pregnancies. So this is again a area for which where we can see the applications for the 5Gs. Then we are having smart cities and grids. So increased connectivity, it is a key to the emergence of smart cities. So more the connectivity is there in the cities, more smarter the city is, right? So 5G, it is there to make the cities more smarter when the services and applications, they become remotely accessible. So this is an smart cities and the grids, it is being shown over here. Then many more applications, they are there. If we are talking about this, the other miscellaneous applications we can see from here, this is the industrial robots or the collaborative robots. We can see very high speed trains, we can see autonomous vehicles, drones which are used for some specific applications in the military as well, right? And then we are having unmanned aerial vehicle, that is UAV. So these are all are the applications of the 5G itself. So from here we can have the future of 5G. So we can say that the future lies with 5G, and this will be a key driver for all the Digital India initiatives, right? So 5G, it is not an incremental technology, but it's an integration of systems under one umbrella. It promises high speed of data, reduced latency, and fast internet speed. So while the earlier generations, they focused on ensuring the connectivity, 5G, it takes into consideration the next level by delivering the connected experiences from the cloud to clients. So 5G technology, it will not only usher in a new area of improved network performance and speed, but also new connected experiences for users. So key emerging technologies that are used for 5G wireless communications, they have been discussed in the talk, along with the future aspects and the latest areas of research which are related to these technologies to fulfill all the challenges and the desires that are necessary to implement 5G technology practically in India and in worldwide. So that is all with the talk. These are the some of the references, and thank you. Any queries from your side? You're welcome.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, there is a query in the chat box. Will 5G be more harmful with respect to radiation effect on body?
Yes, actually, the thing is that many precautions they are there when we talk about the green communication. Green communication is an area basically which is related with the effects of the harmful radiations on body. Definitely, with more precautions, we are using this 5G. It is not that much secure as far as the radiation effects are there. You know, nowadays there are more cases of being cancer, there are more cases of this heart attack, brain, and you can see that as students nowadays, because online teaching and online this thing has come into existence, you must have heard that the students and even our children and even we people, they are more having complaints of the headaches, you know. So we are having strain. We are feeling strain on eyes. We are feeling strain on the brain also. So that is basically due to the electromagnetic radiation effect, right? So definitely the effect will be there, but how much effect will be there? Because every technology when it comes with some of the drawbacks and it comes with some of the advantages as well, right? So we generally have to make a trade-off, right, between these two. If we want to take the advantage, definitely we have to take the precautions also for using the mobile phone. Many researchers, they have given that, right? If you go for this green communication survey papers even from the internet, you will come to know that they have given plenty of like this thing, the precautions to use for the mobile phones even. They don't even prefer to keep the mobile phones while sleeping at night on the bed itself, right? So they said that there is always a harmful radiations which are present in the mobile phone, even we are not even on talking on the phone. So that is again a challenge for 5G, right? So the research is going on. By the time it will implement, definitely hazardous effects will be there, but we need to use it. We have to use it, right, with lot many precautions. Yes.
Any more queries from participant side? You may ask your queries from ma'am or post your queries in the chat box, please. Ma'am, there is one more query in the chat box. Kindly refer it.
Yes. I have gone through. Do heterogeneous network, they need different band antennas. Basically, heterogeneous network means what? That we are having a network which contains the small cells, micro cells and macro cells. Because we know that we need to cover a large area. And with this 5G, because in this 5G we are making use of very high frequencies, so they cannot travel much distance. So we have to divide the area into small cells. Now, what type of antennas? Yes, we can use, basically we are making use of the phased array antennas over here, right? Because we want the beam forming also in 5G. So different band antennas, definitely they will be, because each antenna in the phased array antenna, it is going to transmit the signal as an individual one to the base station. So we can use the different band antennas also, which are a phased array antennas.
Any other queries? I think all done, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the informative session. It was really very wonderful session.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank
much.
you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Manisha
Dr.
ma'am.
Garima. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Garima, for providing such an opportunity to interact with you all. If you have any other query, I just give me 1 minute. This is my email ID. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is my full address and the email ID for the audience also. If you will be having any queries you want to ask about any of the topics that we discussed, so anyone can contact me anytime. So
Thank
thank
you.
you very much for being such a beautiful and a patient listener. And thank you very much, Dr. Payal and Dr. Garin.
Ma'am, please wait a minute for a group photograph. Kindly stop your screen sharing so we
Yes,
can take a group photograph.
right, ma'am, right, ma'am. Just give me a minute.
Dear participants, please turn on your cameras. Thank you so much all. Thank you. We'll meet after 15 minutes break at 11:45 sharp for the second session. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, participants. Thanks a lot.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.